I never had a relationship with Epstein.
So something very unexpected just happened, and it has a lot of people talking. Melania Trump has stepped forward with a rare public statement addressing ongoing conversations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, and the timing of this is what's raising eyebrows across social media and political circles. Now here's the thing. Melania is not someone who frequently inserts herself into controversial public debates. That's why this moment feels different. It wasn't a long press conference, it wasn't a back and forth with reporters. It was brief, direct, and very intentional. She made it clear she is not a victim, she had no involvement, and she wants the public and media to stop connecting her name to ongoing Epstein-related discussions. But what really caught people's attention wasn't just the denial, it was what she said next. She called for survivors to come forward and for lawmakers to give them a platform to speak under oath. Now pause for a second, because this is where things get interesting. Why would she encourage more testimony, knowing that the Epstein case already involves a wide network of powerful individuals, ongoing document releases, and intense public scrutiny? That's the question people are asking.
To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island.
Let's rewind a bit for context. Jeffrey Epstein has been at the center of one of the most complex and widely discussed cases involving powerful connections, sealed records, and ongoing legal debates. Over time, various names have appeared in documents, but being mentioned does not automatically imply wrongdoing, and that distinction is extremely important. Melania addressed one specific rumor directly, the idea that Epstein introduced her to Donald Trump. She dismissed that claim completely, calling it false and damaging. According to her, their paths may have crossed briefly in social settings decades ago, something not uncommon in high-profile New York circles at the time, but she emphasized that she had no knowledge of any illegal activity. She also referenced an old communication that had resurfaced, describing it as nothing more than a polite and casual exchange, not evidence of any deeper relationship. Now here's where the situation shifts from straightforward to complicated, because despite the clarity of her denial, the timing of this statement is what's fueling speculation. There was no buildup, no prior announcement, no media hints. It just happened. And when something like this comes out of nowhere, especially tied to a topic that continues to evolve, people start asking questions like, is this proactive damage control? Is she responding to something behind the scenes? Or is this simply her drawing a firm boundary after years of online speculation? At the same time, new developments connected to Epstein-related discussions continue to surface, including previously unseen materials and ongoing legal processes involving public figures. For example, discussions around individuals like Bill Gates have re-entered the spotlight due to legal proceedings where transparency is being emphasized. Again, it's important to stress involvement in legal processes or being mentioned in documents does not equal guilt. But public curiosity remains high, and every new development adds another layer to the conversation. Meanwhile, online platforms are reacting in real time. Forums, comment sections, and social media threads are filled with theories, some reasonable, others purely speculative. Some people believe Melania's statement is about protecting her personal image. Others think it's about separating herself from a narrative that continues to grow. And then there are those who think this might signal that more information could be coming soon, whether through official channels, court proceedings, or investigative reporting. Another key detail, she did not take any questions. That's significant, because while the statement answered some things, it also left many questions open. And in today's media environment, unanswered questions often drive even more attention. At the end of the day, what we're seeing is a moment where public figures, past associations, and ongoing investigations are all intersecting at once. And when that happens, narratives can quickly spiral, especially online. So it becomes important to separate confirmed statements, documented facts, and speculation. One thing is clear though, this situation is far from over. The Epstein case continues to be one of the most talked about topics involving power, accountability, and transparency, and every new statement like the one from Melania adds another dimension to how the public interprets it. The media reaction to Melania Trump's statement has been a fascinating reflection of how modern information ecosystems operate, especially when it comes to high-profile figures connected even loosely to controversial topics. What stands out immediately is the split between traditional media framing and the rapid, often emotionally driven interpretations found on social platforms. Established news outlets have largely taken a cautious and measured tone, focusing on the factual elements of her statement, her denial of involvement, her clarification regarding past interactions, and her call for survivor testimony. These outlets are aware of the legal sensitivity surrounding the Epstein case and have generally avoided drawing conclusions beyond what can be substantiated. However, the online response tells a very different story. Social media thrives on immediacy, speculation, and engagement, and this situation checks all three boxes. The unexpected timing of Melania's statement has led many users to question whether it was purely reactive or strategically proactive. In digital spaces, timing is often interpreted as intention. When a public figure addresses a controversial issue without an obvious trigger, audiences tend to assume that something unseen may be unfolding in the background. This creates a feedback loop where speculation generates attention generates more speculation, and the cycle continues. Another important layer is the long-standing public fascination with the Epstein case itself. Unlike many other high-profile legal matters, this one involves a web of associations that spans industries, from politics to entertainment to business. Because of this, every new development is rarely viewed in isolation. Instead, it becomes part of a larger narrative that people have been following for years. Melania's statement, therefore, is not just being evaluated on its own merits, but is being inserted into an already complex and emotionally charged storyline.
My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence.
There is also a psychological element at play. Audiences today are more skeptical than ever, particularly when it comes to powerful individuals. This skepticism is not necessarily rooted in specific evidence, but rather in a broader cultural shift toward questioning authority and demanding transparency. When Melania called for survivors to testify, some interpreted it as a genuine advocacy stance, while others saw it as a calculated move to align herself with accountability. This divergence in interpretation highlights how public trust has become fragmented. People often see what aligns with their existing beliefs. From a strategic communication perspective, the brevity of her statement is also noteworthy. In crisis or controversy management, short and controlled messaging can be a deliberate tactic. It allows the speaker to establish a position without opening the door to unpredictable questioning. However, in the age of 24/7 media cycles, this approach can backfire by creating a vacuum that others rush to fill. Without a detailed narrative, audiences begin constructing their own, often based on incomplete or speculative information. Another dimension to consider is how algorithms influence visibility. Content related to controversial topics tends to perform well because it generates strong emotional reactions, curiosity, concern, outrage, or disbelief. As a result, platforms may amplify discussions around this statement, not necessarily because of its factual importance, but because of its engagement potential. This can create the illusion that the situation is escalating more rapidly than it actually is. If you made it this far, you're already ahead of most people when it comes to understanding what's really going on. Make sure you subscribe to TAS Spectrum West TV for more deep dives, real discussions, and consistent updates on stories like this. Drop a like if you found this breakdown helpful, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss when we post. And most importantly, stay informed, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one.